about the places I've not been and the things I've yet to do. Don't let me forget to live life without regret and to hold to what is true. And if you hear my voice, if you can hear this song, raise up your voice and sing. Come on and sing along. And if you hear my voice, if you can hear this song, raise up your voice and sing. Don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. One chance is all I get to make a difference in this world. Don't let me forget how greatly I've been blessed when pity tries to come around. And if you hear my voice, if you can hear this song, raise up your voice and sing. Come on and sing along. And if you hear my voice, if you can hear this song, raise up your voice and sing. Don't let me forget. Don't let me forget.
Welcome to Moccasin Tracks. My name's Rick Hunt, and we are going to have Kelly Montijo Fink, Music on a Mission, as our guest shortly. Every song has a story, she says. She is of Apache, Mexican, Spanish background, and she is a singer and songwriter. She performs pop to rock to country, as well as native drum songs. She is also a bilingual educator and speaker. Kelly's mother is from New Mexico, and that's where her Apache roots are from. Kelly also serves on a Native American commission in Iowa.
Wow. Welcome, Kelly Montijo Fink. Welcome to Moccasin Tracks. We're so excited to have you. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me.
Oh, great. We've been playing your music, and wow, we finally got the CDs in the mail. I don't know what took the mail so long this month, but we'll be playing your music as we broadcast every week, so it'll be really fun. And I want to introduce you to my co-host, Rick Hunt.
Hi. Welcome.
And
Hi,
little
Rick.
bit behind the scene is Carolyn, who's operating the board. I don't know if you can see her.
No, not quite yet. Peek over. Hi, Carolyn. I see Elvis.
yeah, there's Elvis. You are at North Country Community Radio, so it's really fun to have you. I was listening to your music, and we started out, the first song we played is Don't Let Me Forget. And I thought, what a joyous song in a way, if you hear my voice, join me kind of feeling. I really love that. Can you tell us about that song and what was going on when you wrote it?
Well, I think, everybody can get in a rut at certain times in your life, different circumstances arise, and you just don't want to forget that there's an end to it. You're going to pass through it, and so you don't want to, it's kind of like a audio note to self, this too shall pass, and you're going to get through it. And so just to not forget what you're created for and what you're living for, and keep those things in mind when the times are tough.
Yeah. You mentioned too in the lyrics that it was like things that you haven't experienced yet, and those good things to come. So, it was really fun for me to hear the lyrics.
Thanks. And I think hope is an important component in all of that, because if you don't have hope, you can't imagine your future, and you can't imagine the things that you had wanted to do at one point but maybe forgot about.
Yeah.
So keeping those things, some people might call it a bucket list, or life goals or anything like that. But it's important not to lose hope.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I also felt like it was, be the potential, like we
Hmm.
have this potential and we can choose, to guide ourselves on that path.
Hmm.
So it reminded me of that too.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah, it was a really fun song. And I thought, yeah, I want to start the show off with this.
That's great.
So that was one of the songs we played, kind of a warm-up time we did. We also played, Rising Up from the CD that I think came out in the last couple of years,
Hmm.
I Won't Stop Contending. Um, you know, since promote that your music is a music with a mission, I wanted you to tell us a little bit about this new CD.
Oh yeah. Well, that song in particular is a favorite story to tell for me because I grew up with Wonder Woman. My mom, when I was graduating, I think fourth or fifth grade, she sent a singing telegram back when they used to do that to my grade school, and sent me a Wonder Woman singing telegram. And so I've just always loved the old Linda Carter series. And then there was that incident, and so it's just kind of this identificational, And you probably saw one of the CD covers that was an homage to Wonder Woman as well.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that movie, that the first one that came out in recent years with Gal Gadot, I saw that twice. Once with my daughter because she said, "You raised me on Wonder Woman. We have to see it together." And then I was with my mom and the rest of the family. And my mom's out in Colorado, so it was a family trip out there. But in the viewing of this movie, two things happened. So first, you see all these warrior women training together, and I hear my husband, and he's a couple seats down from me, and he's like, and I'm like, what's going on? So I asked him later, because he's sniffling and crying about this. And he's
Oh,
really a leadership kind of guy. And so it was evoking emotion out of him because he saw these warrior women doing what they were trained to do. And that like evoked an emotion out of him. And then there's another scene where Steve Trevor's like they're at the front and he's telling Wonder Woman she's got to stay back and he's going to go ahead, and I hear my mom like audibly laugh out loud, and that's the beginning of the song Rising Up. She goes, huh, yeah, right. That's my mom in there at the beginning of the song, like, don't do
that's
this, don't do
great.
that, you're not strong enough, you're not able. And my mom's like, yeah, right. And you have to know this about my mom. She's a second-degree black belt. She's bungee jumped.
Whoa.
She's, a world traveler. She's pretty much Charlie's Angels and Wonder Woman all rolled in together. So, so that song is kind of an homage to that one particular viewing of Wonder Woman with my family members.
Oh, well, it's really a great song, and I'm sure it inspires, the listeners in many different ways, as well as that song "Agitator" too. That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell
I,
us
I
about.
wrote I wrote that song after I went to the funeral of a man I'd just met one time, and he was a musician as well, and we were both asked to do some music at this one particular gathering. It was kind of a racial reconciliation gathering, and I needed a keyboard player, so he stepped up. And I mean, this guy was a world traveler, traveled in the '90s with a touring band, I should say, and just a world-class musician, and but yet so humble and so kind and willing to help, and just super encouraging too of my music. And I just thought, wow, it got me thinking about all the people in my life, and we all have people in our life who have been agitators. And I think of the old washing machines, where the center part was called an agitator that went back
Yeah,
and forth,
yeah, yeah.
that shift you, that move you, that promote you, that get you going in the direction you need to be going in. And so that he was kind of the catalyst for that song, but certainly thinking of all the other people that have been that in my life. So they're the agitators.
Yeah, it's a good one too. Um, yeah, Rick, do you have a question for Kelly?
I'm just listening right now. I understand you teach. May I ask what kind of studies you teach?
Sure. So all my career has been at the college level, teaching at the college level. I started, oh gosh, over 25, 30 years ago, probably, at teaching Spanish.
Oh,
And now I've switched over in the last 4 or 5 years to English language acquisition because we've had an uptick in enrollment for our immigrant populations in our town. And all the foreign language teachers have kind of been moved over. I teach at a community college now.
Wow.
And so not so many American students taking foreign languages, but definitely a lot more immigrants needing English classes. So
Wow.
yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
That's great.
Wow.
Thank you.
You have that opportunity where you share your culture, and I was just wondering what that experience is like if you're, have a lot of people from all over the world in your classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it because I love to travel as well. So I'm not able to go everywhere I'd like to go, but like the nations have come to me in a sense. So I get to exchange stories with these students, and some of them have stories of they've seen either movies or read books about Native Americans, and so they're fascinated. A majority of my students are also tribal. They're coming from Congo and Sudan, war-torn nations, and they have their own stories, but they speak tribal languages, and so it's fascinating to me to get to know them and to kind of share, as you were saying, share cultures, but not just my culture. It's to hear about theirs as well.
Yeah, what a beautiful exchange you got going
Yeah.
on. Yeah. You seem to be like happy in what you're doing. And lately we've been asking our guests, like, what makes you happy? What keeps you, in that positive way that you keep creating, you keep writing songs, these lyrics, and how does it all happen for you?
Oh gosh, it's a big question. I think everybody, let me put it this way. I think everyone has a gift and everyone is a gift. So I feel like I've been given gifts of joy and peace, and that's my operating procedure. I operate out of those things. And then, so that's my gift to people as well. And it could come through music, it can come through just encouragement with friends and family. And those are the things, if I'm operating in the way that I've been gifted and I'm using those gifts to encourage and help others, then that's the joy that comes.
Comes back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we hear that in your music, that we were playing this morning. It really was fun. I think, it was like uplifting in a way, too, like just kind of brought you into a space of what you're talking about, joy and just being happy,
Yeah.
So it's really kind of cool. We played this song "Wisdom is Beauty," and it really felt like a very Celtic, influence. Tell us
That's
about that
intentional.
song, like
Yeah.
Sean Murphy you feature in the song.
Yeah.
How did that
So
come about?
my friend Sean Murphy, I have to say this first. Dear friend, he was also a touring musician, world-class musician. He actually passed away a couple of years ago because of COVID, so that was a sad loss for us. And he did so much to help and encourage me. But having a Celtic Sean in some song and somebody like Sean Murphy, you have to use him in the song. So he was, adding harmonies. He was the drummer on that. But it's actually a story out of Proverbs, a series of Proverbs that compare two women, one's foolishness and one's wisdom. And so I thought it was this beautiful story, and it got me thinking about other storytelling traditions. Obviously, we Native people have our storytelling traditions, but the Celtic people as well. And so I thought, oh, this sounds like a Celtic song. So for me, like different songs have their own personalities and they might sound like a specific genre or style. So I don't like stay in one particular genre because I'm like, oh, this sounds like this. This sounds like a country song. This sounds like a rap song. This sounds like something else. So to me, it was like this is an awesome Celtic song. I'm going to put this together and definitely ask Sean for help because I don't know Celtic music. And so he had the idea of like either a fiddle or a penny whistle, and we ended up with a penny whistle on that. And so
Did he play the penny whistle?
No, we had another friend do that.
Yeah. It came on, totally cool. I mean, I really appreciated it.
And I love in the Northeast too, the Cherokee people, and they're married a lot with Scots Irish. And so they called that group, the Scots Irish people called that blend the blessed blend of Native and Scots Irish. So I had some friends that they're not, I don't think they're touring anymore as musicians, but they had that background, and that was the name of their group, the Blessed Blend.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. I don't know if you're still serving on the Human Rights Commission or the Native American um, Commission on Native American Affairs in Iowa,
Yeah.
but could you share a little bit about that experience, what that
Sure.
was like for you?
Yeah. I'm still serving. I was appointed in 2012, and so it's been a decade. I think I had my first meeting in 2013. But there's a lot of things. I'm just amazed at all the people I serve with. I'm currently the vice chair, but we've been able to put in the capital of Iowa, Des Moines. There's a rotunda with displays, and it took probably close to a dozen years because they started it before I was even on the commission to have a display honoring the Native peoples of the state of Iowa. So we finally have that in on permanent display in the rotunda in Iowa because school kids come through there a lot. That's a prime field trip. So it's helped to help educate the public too on who we are and what we're about. And another thing we've been able to do is there's still a couple schools, I believe, but one of the schools close to me, about 20 minutes away, we were instrumental in having talks with the students and some of the staff about their mascot because it was not honoring as they thought it was. So they changed their names to the Wolves, which is good. And there's been some name changes of different landmarks around, like Squaw Creek Park is now Wanatee Park to honor a Native woman from the Meskwaki tribe. So we've had some good work done by all the commissioners. It's certainly not just me alone. And the thing that we're working on right now is, and a lot of people don't know this, next June 2nd, 2024, is the 100-year commemoration of Native Americans becoming citizens of the U.S.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and Chief Standing Bear from the Ponca tribe was kind of a precursor to that in a court case. He was not allowed to bury his son on tribal lands because they said he wasn't human.
Wow.
And he wasn't a person. So that was kind of late 1870s, I believe. But that court case was instrumental in getting United States or Native Americans to be United States citizens. So we're going to have a big kind of shindig of sorts at the Capitol in Des Moines on June 2nd. So actually, if you guys want to spread the word to just maybe different states across whoever your listeners are, if they want to start some kind of program in their communities to commemorate that. We're not calling it a celebration because it should have happened all along, right? But we're calling it a commemoration because a lot of people don't know that history. So if anybody in their community wants to have some kind of commemoration, and that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to bring that up. I want to share with you that the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs just last year got a display in the Vermont State House.
Wonderful.
Very similar. Took many years. And finally, they had a group called the Friends of the State House that worked with the commission. And, it took a couple more years, and we have a permanent exhibit right in the State House. And
so important.
It's that same kind of thing. People come through there on tours, and now they can see a little bit about the original people of the state. And as well, I want to share that Vermont has passed a law banning the use of branding, native, symbols and things for mascots.
That's wonderful.
And
I think Maine did that too.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah, that'd be great to have in Iowa.
These are great issues, and I'm thank you for bringing them up so that people know that these common things are talked about throughout Indian country, and it's something that everybody can support.
Yeah, and I'm a linguist, so language is important to me. And I often bring up when we talk about the mascot issue, and when people say, well, we're honoring Native people by having this mascot, I bring up the word mascot itself. Mascota is from Spanish, and it means pet. So it's less than human. And it's that same argument we had for citizenship, right? We're not human. And so if you look at something and you're calling it a pet, you're not honoring it, you're degrading.
Right.
Oh, thank you, Kelly, for sharing that. That's really important. You worked on, also on the Human Rights Commission. Was that a Truth and Reconciliation type
No, the Human Rights Department is actually the umbrella for the Commission for Native American Affairs. So
Okay.
we have a liaison with the governor's office. She kind of leads she doesn't lead our meeting, our chairperson leads our meeting, but she goes back to the governor's office and reports on our discussions and our activities and those kind of things. So it's all under the Department of Human Rights.
That's fantastic. I know in Vermont it's under historic preservation.
Mm,
And it's always, like really difficult to get, like, hey,
sure,
get out of the history and,
right.
deal with today.
The present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know what? I know every state is different, and I was at a recent gathering where, there were tribes from all over the U.S., and I'm like, get involved in your commission or your organization. The state level might look different than ours, but just get involved because you never know who you're going to meet, what influence you're going to have, how you can educate the public or even your governing officials. I've actually had the chance to meet our current serving governor and the last governor. And so those are things I don't take for granted. And of course, you can't gift these public officials because of protocols, they have in place. They don't want a bribery. It's intended to look like a bribery or anything by gifting them anything. But we can gift our stories and we can gift our songs. So when I met Terry Branstad, there was a young man that was coming with me who was a younger commissioner, and he had survived his sister's suicide, being suicidal himself, and how he came out of that. And I said, you just need to tell the governor your story, and you need to leave that in his mind as a lasting impression, how you've overcome these things. And then I'll sing a song, and we can leave him with that, because it's not monetary per se, but it is impactful. So it's been a real joy to be able to have those connections and meet people throughout the state because, if you serve in those positions, you are going to meet people that you normally wouldn't have contact with. So,
yeah, right. It's really important. Wow, you do fantastic things. I mean, when I first heard your music with the Native American Music Awards, and I said, oh, here's some music. Let's contact her, see if she'll do an interview. And then when I found out you do all this other work as well, so it's so beautiful to see and hear you today talk about this work. I want to have you give you the opportunity to bring up a topic that maybe we haven't asked you about that may be on your heart. Is there something that you'd like our listeners to know about, either your music or your work there in Iowa?
Yeah, let me think about that. I think, you kind of brought it up with the historic preservation angle of your commission, but I think it's important for the public, and your listeners probably already know this, but most Native people are considered or relegated to the past, and they don't see us as modern day beings. And so I think I look for all those opportunities. I've actually had a lot more speaking engagements and singing engagements recently, which is interesting, but I love it too because I'm used to, as an educator, getting up in front of people and talking. But I find out how little people do know. Native people are all around. We're still here, but you still taught in schools, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, is history in a paragraph from about 100 years ago. So I look forward to those opportunities to share what Native people are doing now, who we are now, not ignoring the past, but also bringing everybody up to speed in the present.
Yeah, that's really important. I know I keep bringing up things about what's happening here in New Hampshire and Vermont, but there was a great concern about education and how Native people were not really represented. And as a part of the Vermont Commission, there's a committee that's working on an Abenaki. It's called the Abenaki Curriculum Project. But we've been in communication with the Department of Education in Vermont and really developing some curriculum that would be inclusive.
That's awesome.
And I think that it's happening also in New Hampshire and in Maine. And I think this is something that's like really important, especially for people who are educators like yourself, to create that awareness that we need
Mhm.
to update
Yeah,
some of those history curriculums that are
for sure. In the
yeah.
National Museum of American Indian in Washington, D.C., it's native led, and they have some wonderful resources online if you haven't checked that out yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of more all across the states. They might have, I haven't checked so in depth that I know that they have, specific tribal histories, but it is a compilation of efforts from Native peoples across the states. So they do have a lot of resources, K through 12 in particular.
Great. That's good to know. Took a note on that. I can share that with the group. Rick. um,
I would like to ask Kelly, what instruments do you play?
I play a few, but not well.
Oh, wow.
I have a lot of few musician friends that actually I hire to help me because
Mhm.
because I'm a linguist, I'm a wordsmith, I'm a writer, a songwriter, and I'm a singer. So I can
Right.
plunk out things on the guitars, like what I'm thinking it should sound like, or on the keyboards. But that's pretty much it. My son, when he was 15, said, "Mom, show me a few chords on your guitar," and I did, and he took off running. He's so much better than I am. So I get
that's
him to
very
play
good.
for me sometimes, and,
Uh-huh.
and just other community members and musicians that I know and appreciate that are willing to work with me. So,
Oh, that's
Your
beautiful.
voice when you sing is so clear and
oh, thank
crisp
you,
and beautiful.
thank you,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
You said you didn't get started in really producing a lot of music until you were a little older in life,
Yeah.
but you were singing as a child or
I
growing up.
was. Yeah, I remember sitting in the back seat of the car just rocking back and forth and singing songs and just always loved music and yeah, choirs and my dad got me voice lessons when I was in junior high school and and I kind of tinkered a little bit. I think my earliest memory of trying to write a song was probably early high school, but uh there was a time where it's like you're told, oh, you got to earn a living, you got to figure out how to and being an artist isn't it. So then you kind of put those things by the wayside, but it's like going back to you have a gift and you are a gift. So you can't, if you put those things away, you're never really going to have that satisfaction in your life, that joy, that happiness, because there's something that a creative needs to do in being creative that will stifle their life if they don't
Mm,
participate in that.
Mhm.
So
mhm.
it wasn't until later in my life and having kids and I don't know what it was that triggered it, but I just like I got to get songs out. I have these songs in my head. I have words and lyrics in my head. I got to get them
Wow.
out. So that's kind of
Wow.
how it all happened later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you also write other things besides music or?
Other than lesson plans, some speeches, yeah. So I've been invited. I think my next speaking engagement is for a diversity panel. So it is a lot of educational, but I think I would call it like inspirational, educational, for things that people don't know. And certainly I bring into my sharing times the background I have with linguistics. So a lot of people don't know Tonto, from Lone Ranger and Tonto. His name, Tonto, means stupid in Spanish. So it's just like, yeah, it's just like, why,
Yeah.
why,
Yeah.
why, why are we calling the Indians stupid, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the mainstream perspective. And
Yeah.
so it's just bringing those things to light that people don't know about the things all around them they're aware of, but they don't really know about. So I like
Mm-hmm.
to educate like that.
Mm-hmm. And it has just been forever that those attitudes. I was just reading a book about Pueblo Asita, who was from the Isleta Pueblo and lived during the time from 1871 to 1940. And he actually got to testify in Washington, D.C. And like when he testified, they didn't believe that he wrote his own speech.
Wow.
It was like such a racist attitude that they
Yeah.
couldn't accept that his words were just so intelligent and really, really knew what he was talking about and was a land defender. and was a land, protector, from all those years ago. And so just a little bit that I, have been able to read and to learn about. It's just so beautiful the way that the people have always protected the land and always been, in that community with nature. So I am not native, but I sit here with two Abenaki people, and we produce this radio show every week to try to remind people in our community that Native people are still here, and they were the original inhabitants. So,
Yeah. One of the things I've talked about recently too, this is, you're talking about people of the land. I often speak about, because land acknowledgements are popular right now, and colleges and universities are putting them on their websites. Major business organizations may include them either when they do live events or again on their websites. But I kind of think it's a misnomer. It should be people of the land acknowledgement, because we're not just talking about land, we're talking about the people that inhabit that place. And so I think it's important. And when we did our flag installation in the Capitol, the one I was talking about, I made it a point to not only, because we had commissioners from different tribes at that point, and we still do, but not everybody that represented the land-based tribes in Iowa. So I tried to track down all the historical and land-based tribes, and that was what we now call Iowa, and to get their name right, because the names we have for ourselves are not the names that other people call us. So everybody knows the term Sioux, but how many people know Lakota, right? And it means the people. So most of the names that Native people have for themselves actually mean the people or the persons or something like that, the human beings. And so I read the list of names to the best of my ability of the original names that people had for themselves. And then also shared, of course, the ones that most people would know. Because I think it's important to reclaim the language too, reclaim the names we have for ourselves, because people have called us something else.
The people here were known as Olnabak, right?
Yes. And what does that mean? Do you know?
The people of Abenaki descent.
Awesome.
People of the dawn.
People. Oh, that's right. Yes, I know DeConte and Brown, Donna DeConte Brown and Jason Brown, the artists. Yeah. And he's a musician now, up and coming musician. Yeah.
Yes, Firefly. Yeah.
Firefly. You know him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We interviewed with them
awesome.
a year ago or so. Yeah.
I actually I met them because they asked me, because they see me dressed as Wonder Woman.
Oh, right.
They asked me to walk in the fashion show. They did fashions at the Santa Fe Haute Couture fashion show. So they asked me to come and I had like an owl hood and a cape. It was like pretty wild, yeah. So
that's so
honoring
cool.
the hunters and their tribe,
Wow.
Oh, cool. And we're going to be closing out. Kelly Montijo, Fink, it's just been an honor to really talk to you today. I love hearing about your work and playing your music. In closing, what would you like our listeners to take away from this conversation today?
Just to keep listening. I think people talk a lot and they don't listen as much as they should. So appreciate the listeners who are willing to listen and hear other stories and take that to heart.
Oh, thank you for saying that. We were just talking about how we need to do shout outs to people we know are listening to Moccasin Tracks, to include them and that we know that they're listening and we're doing this for them. So we're gonna start doing that, reaching out into the community and acknowledging people, because we need our hearts to connect, and we need our minds to connect, to be of one mind together to move through some of this work. Thank you so much for sharing your music with us. It will truly be an inspiration. Rick, you have final words?
I just want to say to Kelly, thank you so much for being on our show today. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate you all. Even the one I don't see behind the scenes there. Tell her thank you as well.
Yay, Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Yay, she's clapping.
I'm a powerful native woman, got no need to apologize.
He feeds
God
the
made
CD
me free
player
and he made
and,
me me,
keeps
so
the
I won't
volumes
believe
up and
in
down,
the
and
lies.
turns the mics off
Walked
and on.
1,000 miles through
Really
1,000
operates the,
trials, cried 1,000
voice
years
for
on a
us, so
trail of tears. I'm a
group effort
powerful
here, Kelly.
native woman, got no need to
But
apologize.
thank you again,
God made
and
me free and he
we
made me
will
me,
not
so I
forget,
won't
and we'll
believe
continue
in the
to
lies. Wouldn't be in this place if it weren't for grace, so I thank the Lord down on my face. I'm
all
a
right. Well,
powerful
we're gonna say
native
goodbye for now. And
woman,
Carolyn
got no
cues
need
up
to
maybe one of Kelly's
apologize.
songs.
God made me free and he
Thank you
made
for
me
singing
me,
this
so I
to me.
won't
Oh, I'm glad they made it.
I will overcome by the blood
you know,
of
it's
one
like the
who
oddest
gave
thing,
it
but
all for my ransom.
things
I'm a
just get
powerful
wherever
native
they go.
woman, got no need to apologize.
But they do come back.
Yeah.
God
And,
made me free and he made
so
me
we're
so I
really
won't
grateful for that.
believe in the lies.
We will continue to
I'm not
play your
live
music
my
here
life
on
in
Marcus and
bitterness
Drive.
or strife. I forgive the
So thank you
ones who have
again
done
for
me
being
wrong.
with
I'm a
us.
powerful native
Thank you,
woman,
Carolyn,
got no
for
need to apologize.
playing a song for us.